Good evening, all. Hope everyone is doing well. So, welcome to TCS NQT 2026 Coding Training Day 12. So, some of the students got survey mails, it seems. Okay, so especially the students belonging to Pune region, they got survey mails. Hey, is my audio clear? Everything clear? Is it clear? Yeah, good evening, Varun. Yeah, is it clear? Audio, is it clear? Yeah, today we will solve one more question which was asked recently. That means the exam, TCS tag exam happened on 3rd of March. So we'll solve the second question of that day. So let us go back to the problem. Right. So this is the problem asked on 3rd March 2026. Right, Varun, is it clear? Audio, is it clear? Can you just respond? Any one of you? If audio is clear, then we'll proceed. We'll try to solve this question. Okay, then. So the question is about a student's marks analysis. We need to analyze the student marks and find out the task given in the question. Okay, so let us find out what is given. But the difficulty level, this is second question. Okay, so previously we solved first question in previous video. Medium level difficulty, 60 minutes to solve this question. Okay, so the problem statement is like this. A school maintains marks of students in multiple subjects in a two-dimensional matrix. So students' marks will be maintained in the form of a two-dimensional matrix for multiple subjects. So each row represents one student, each column represents one subject. So you are given an integer n represents the number of students, n value represents the number of students, and m represents the number of subjects. And you are also given a matrix of size n by m, which represents marks. That means this matrix contains marks of all the n students in m subjects. So that's why its order is n by m size matrix. Then a student is considered pass if they score strictly above the average marks of that subject in at least one subject. So when a student can be considered as pass if he strictly scores above the average marks of that subject. Okay, so particular subject average marks will be there. Okay, so above that average marks, if he scores at least in one subject out of 3 or 6, whatever number of subjects given, out of m subjects you can say. Okay, so in at least one subject, if he scores above average marks, then he can be considered as a pass. So your task is to determine the total number of students who pass. Okay, because n students are given, n subjects marks are also given. So we need to find out how many number of students have passed with these kind of marks. So the constraints are given like n and m are between 1 to 1000 and the marks are between 0 to 100. Yeah, here a sample test case is given. Input 3 is given. Okay, so this first 3 indicates n value. Then the second 3 indicates m value, number of subjects, and this is number of students. Okay, and these are the marks here. Okay, so that means this is student 1 marks. Each row represents one student given in the problem statement. So first student marks in a 3 subjects, second student marks in 3 subjects, next student marks in a 3 subjects. Then the output is given 1. That means the number of students out of 3, only one student has a pass. So we need to calculate this output from the given marks here. Okay, so first what we do is let us represent these marks in the form of a two-dimensional array. Assume this is our two-dimensional array, 3 rows and 3 columns. So each row is represented, index starts with 0, 1 and 2. Then the columns also starts with the index 0, 1 and 2. Okay, so the first student marks 50, 60 and 70. Then the second student marks 40, 50, 60. Then the third student marks 80, 90 and 100. Okay, so these rows represents students. These rows represent students, and in the problem statement it is given that the columns represent subjects. Okay, so these columns they represent subjects. Okay, so this is subject 1 marks, this is subject 2 marks, this is subject 3 marks. Okay, so I'll write here this is subject 1. Okay, so this is subject 2 and this is subject 3. 3 subjects marks are given column wise. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to calculate how many students passed. Out of 3, how many students passed? The output is given as 1. This we need to calculate. Okay, so if we go back to the problem statement, now when the student is considered pass, this is very important to understand. Okay, so they score strictly above the average marks of that subject in at least one subject. Okay, so that means we need to first calculate average marks of each subject. Average marks of each subject we need to calculate. It is not given, only marks in each subject for each student is given. Okay, so this we need to calculate. For example, average marks of subject 1 we will calculate. So how do we get average marks for subject 1? It is subject 1 is represented column wise here. Okay, so it is represented this is subject 1, this is subject 2 marks, this is subject 3 marks. Okay, so it is represented column wise, right? So if you add these 3 marks then divide with 3, then you will get average marks for that subject. Okay, so that's what we do here. So it is 50 plus 40 plus 80 divided by 3. Okay, so it is 50 plus 40 is approximately something like 90 plus 80. Okay, so it is 170 divided by 3. Okay, so this approximately comes to 3 5s 3 6 18. Okay, so 3 5s 15 here, 3 5 times 15. Okay, so then 20 is there, so 3 6 18. Then again 20 is there, 6 6. Okay, so approximately you can consider it as 556.667 or something like. Okay, then similarly calculate average marks for a subject 2. So how do we get? It is column wise, second column 60 plus 50 plus 90 divided by 3. Okay, so it is 50, 60, 110 plus 90, 200 divided by 3. Okay, so this approximately 3 6 18. Okay, so again 20, 3 6 18. Okay, so it is 66.66 something, 66.66. Okay, so then we calculate average marks for a subject 3. Now this amounts to 70 plus 60 plus 100. Okay, so then whole divided by 3. So this is 70 plus 60, 130 plus 100, 230 divided by 3. Okay, so this is 3 sevens. Okay, 21. Okay, so 20 will be left, 3 6 18. Okay, so it is 76.667 something you can consider. Okay, so this value is 76.667. Now we got average marks for each subject. Okay, so what next? Now we need to decide whether student 1 has passed or not. Okay, so row 0 represents a student 1. This row 0 represents a student 1. Okay, so first let us calculate for student 1. So what we need to do? Student 1 passed or not? That means you need to, these are the 3 subjects marks for a student 1. Each row represents a student. Okay, so row 0 represents a first student. Now we need to compare whether at least in one subject if he has scored more than the average marks of that subject. Okay, so then we can declare him as pass. Okay, so now we'll compare here. So first subject we'll compare. Okay, so what is average marks? 56. Okay, so what are the marks got in subject 1? 50. Okay, so 50 is less than 56.667. Okay, so that's why we'll say that he has not passed in subject 1. Okay, now coming to subject 2, 60 is his marks. He scored 60 marks in that subject. Okay, so his average is average in that subject is 66.667. Okay, so his marks are less than the average. That's why in second subject also he has not passed. Like this you need to compare each student each subject marks. Then next 70 less than 76.667. Okay, so that means student 1 has not passed. Student 1 has not passed. Similarly, we calculate for a student 2. Okay, so first subject 1, 40. Okay, so 40 is less than 56.667. So that's why in subject 1 also he has not passed. Then 50, in second subject his marks are 50, 50 less than 66.667. Okay, so in second subject also he failed. Then third subject marks are 60, which is less than 76.667. So here also he failed. So that's why we can declare that student 2 has also failed. Okay, so now we calculate for student 3. Okay, so I am writing for student 3 here. So student number 3 will calculate here. So what are his marks in first subject? 80 marks, which is greater than 76.667. Okay, so that means he passed in subject 1. Okay, so at least in one subject if he has passed. Okay, so then no need to check the remaining subjects. Okay, whether he failed in remaining other 2 subjects, not still we can declare him as a passed. Okay, so since in first subject itself he has scored pass marks above average marks he has scored, then we can declare him as a pass. Okay, so then out of 3 student number 3 has passed. Okay, so that's why the number of students passed output is equals to 1. So like this, for example, there are some 100 students are there. Okay, so you should go on counting, like student 3 has passed here, no? So you take a variable called as counter. Every time if you identify a student as passed, just you go on incrementing this count value. Okay, so finally if you print this counter, which gives you the number of students passed. Okay, so it should be equal to the given output. So this is how we should calculate the number of students. So the thing is finding the average marks in each subject. So you need to perform a column wise summing up of the numbers. Okay, column wise traversing of the matrix you need to perform and then add the numbers that gives the average marks in particular subject. Then again you need to traverse the matrix horizontally, row wise you need to traverse because each subject you need to compare. So once a student has passed in one subject, assume it is in first subject, okay, so then no need to compare. You can stop comparing for remaining other subjects and you can go to the next student. This is how you can develop the logic. So even though it is given as a medium level difficulty, but it is pretty simple. No algorithm is involved, no data structure is involved. Okay, so you can just by analyzing these marks, okay, so you can just calculate average marks in each subject and you can go on comparing each student marks with these average marks. Okay, then you go on count how many students pass. That's it. So we'll write the code in a Python. We'll move to the thing is here you should know how to read this input. That is the point here. Okay, so if you are unable to read this input properly, then everything goes wrong. Your entire logic goes wrong and it works with that means your program will deal with some other numbers. Okay, so that's why you should be very careful in reading the input. Got it. So in Python, how to read these things. Okay, so first line contains n and m values, two values. Okay, so then for that what we do is we read n and m values. Okay, so this is your input, no, 3 is given. Okay, so how you can read this n and m values we want. Okay, so n m values I am reading here. So for this I said you can use a map function here. Okay, so you can just say map of int comma input dot split. Input dot split. So what this input dot split will do, input will read these two as a string. Okay, so it reads this entire thing as a string and splits this into two different strings like this. It returns two strings here and map function will convert each string maps each string into integer number. Okay, so then this will be converted to integer 3, this will be converted to integer 3 and returns these two numbers that we are catching in two variables n and m. Okay, so now n contains the value 3 and m contains the value 3. This is what the first line input you can read. Then the next line of input contains a matrix. Yes or no? Okay, so to read this what we need to do is we need to import the sys module. You can even write at the top or you can write somewhere in the code. Only thing is importing this sys module is important. Okay, so because the entire matrix you need to read, this entire thing you should read these three rows. Okay, so even see for example the constraints are given like n m values 1000. So if you are given 1000 rows at a time, if you read 1000 rows, then your program executes faster. So how to read all the rows at a time? Okay, so for that what we do is we use the function called as read function is there, very efficient function. Okay, so this function is available in a sys module. Okay, so I write like this, sys dot stdin. This you need to read from the standard input, no? So you should use the object present in sys module std.in dot the function is read. Okay, so what it does, it reads the entire three rows. Okay, so the first row, say for example 50, 60, 70, something like 80, 90, not 80, 90, so it is something like 40, 50, some 60. Okay, so 80, 90, 100, assume just. Okay, so it reads the three lines, that means all the input present in the input buffer. Okay, so it reads the entire thing and returns that one. Okay, as a string it returns. Okay, it reads this entire thing as a single string. Okay, so now what you do is you split this into individual strings. So read dot split, what it does is it splits each element into individual string. Okay, so that means what you will get, this line. Okay, so you get a string of this kind. Okay, so I write here, it is just like a 50, 60, 70, something like 40, 50, then 90. Okay, so 80, all of them will be kept in a row. Now this is how it returns the individual strings. Okay, so now these individual strings, once you get these individual strings, you can just give it to map and ask the map to integer values. Okay, so just you can say that map to integer values. So now this maps to integer values and you will get integer values like this. Okay, so 40, 50, 90. Okay, so then say 80, 90, 100. Now everything is converted into integer types. Okay, so this what you do, you get a map object. No, so this entire thing now you convert into list. Okay, so it is very easy to get the list here. So convert the map object into list. So this will be converted into list containing the numbers 50, 60, 70. Now you call it as a data. Now your data contains the list of numbers. But these numbers you must arrange in the form of a matrix. Okay, so in list they are arranged in a row, just like a vector form, but you must read them into a matrix form. So what we do is we'll read these numbers from this variable, list variable called data, and then we'll store into a matrix here. Okay, so what we do is we declare a variable called as a matrix. Okay, or you can call it as a marks also, whatever you want, you can give your name. Okay, so I am just declaring an empty list here. Okay, so in Python, a two-dimensional array. Okay, so a 2D array is nothing but a list of lists, nested list. Okay, so that means inside the one list, now you can have each row as a sub list. This is row 1 as a sub list. This is next row sub list, next row as a sub list. Okay, so which is equal to a two-dimensional array in other languages or Java. Okay, so in Python we implement this as a list of lists. Okay, so that's why I declared an empty list here called as a matrix. Then each row I store as a list in this matrix. Okay, so for that what I need to do, I need to read the values one by one from this and store into this matrix as a list, each row as a list here. Okay, so just I am accessing the values here. Okay, so for you can say I in range, how many values I have? N values I have. Okay, for n number of students. sorry, n is the number of students, so I should arrange these marks for 3 students. So that's why what I do is I take I in the range of n. Okay, so that means what are the values I'll get here? I 0 1 2 I'll get. Okay, so I is equal to 0 means student 1 marks. So what are the student 1 marks? The first 3 numbers represent the student 1 mark. So I should read these 3 at a time and store as a sublist. Okay, so here I should store 50, 60, 70 as a sublist. I should store that represents the student 1 marks or row 1 in the 2-dimensional matrix. Okay, so what I should do? I should get these marks. Okay, so how can I get these marks? So this is index 0. Okay, so this is index 1, index 2. I should get the marks from starting from index 0 to index 2 I should get. Okay, now see, these marks represents subject marks column wise, subject 1, subject 2, subject 3. Okay, so that means 3 columns data I want, so I should make use of this m value here. M represents 3 columns, no? Okay, so then I use a slice operator here. Okay, I use a slice operator here. So what I see is, this is my data. Okay, so data of what is I value here? First row I should get for first student, row 0, no? So I multiplied by m here. Okay, so beginning position data I multiplied by 0. Okay, so I value is 0 and m value is 3 here. Okay, so 3 multiplied by 0 means 0. Okay, so that means starting from index 0 up to which value I want? I want up to 2 here. Okay, so 2 is nothing but before value 3 is our number of columns here. Okay, so I should stop at 2. Okay, so for that purpose what I do is I simply multiply this I plus 1 with m, so that I stop at 2. Okay, now you can see here. So what I get here? I plus 1 means 0 plus 1. 1 multiplied by 3. Okay, so it is nothing but the slice operator I am using here. So data of 0 colon 3. Okay, so 0 colon 3. This is nothing but I am taking a slice like this, 0 colon 3. So 0 colon 3 means it gives all the values in indexes starting from 0, 1 and 2. It stops at index 2. So 0, 1 and 2 means these 3 values I get. These 3 values I get, and I get as a slice. Okay, so as a sublist I'll get this one. Okay, so that what I need to do? I need to store into this matrix here. Okay, so for that what I do is I just say matrix dot append. Okay, so how we can add elements to an empty list? By using the append method. Okay, so I should say matrix dot append is equal to data of this. Got it? So it takes this slice, okay, 50, 60, 70 it gets, and now it will be added as a sublist in this matrix 50, 60, 70. Okay, so one sublist is added. That means row 0 as per our previous diagram. Okay, so this row now you got for student 0 marks you got into the 2-dimensional array. Okay, right, now you can see next I value increments, I becomes 1. How the next student marks will be read? Just you try to evaluate this expression. Now you can see I value is 1 here. Okay, now you can see data of 1 into 3. Okay, so 1 into 3 is 3. Okay, so now you are getting the next slice. Where are the next student marks? If this is the index 2, the next student mark starts at index 3, 4, 5. I should get this piece of marks. Okay, so that means 3, 4, 5 I should get here. Now you can see here. So 1 into 3, data of 3 colon, then 1 plus 1 is 2. Okay, so 2 into 3. 2 into 3 is 6. Okay, so that means get a slice of 3 to 6. 3 to 6 means it starts at 3, then 4, 5. It stops at before number, no? Ending value. Okay. So 3, 4, 5 slice I get here, which is 40, 50, something like 90 marks. Okay. So that will be appended to matrix. Then another sublist will be added to the matrix. 40, 50, something like a 90. The second student marks you got. Then I value becomes 2 here. I value becomes 2. Now you can see the next student marks data of 2 into 3. Okay, so you are getting the values like this slice. 2 3 is a 6 colon. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 3 is a 9. Okay, so 6 to 9 means 6 7 8. So this is 6, this is 7, this is 8. These three marks you get as a sublist, then that will be stored appended to the matrix. So now your matrix contains 80, 90, 100 marks. Okay, so that's it. Then the loop terminates. Now you have successfully stored these marks in the form of a two-dimensional array. So if you don't read the marks properly, then your logic will mess up. Okay, it won't give proper output. Okay, so this you should understand. Now, if you want still, you can just go on printing the matrix, whether it is printed properly or not. Okay, so read correctly or not in this format, whether you are getting the list or not, you can just check and confirm it. Then you can go for implementing the logic. Okay, now what we do is now we calculate average marks for each subject. Okay, so each subject average marks column wise you need to add the marks. Okay, so you need to traverse each column in the matrix. Okay, so for that what we do is we take a empty list called as a average marks. Okay, so I take an empty list and I store average marks of each subject in this. Once I calculate average marks for each subject like this. Okay, so once I get average marks I store into that list. Once I get this, I store in that list. Once I get this, I store in the list. Once I have these marks available with me, then I can go on comparing each student marks with those average marks. Okay, so for that we take a variable called as a average marks. Okay, right? Then how to read the marks? Average you need to calculate average, that means subject to wise average marks you need to calculate. Okay, so for that you need to read the marks column wise. Each column you should read, no? So column wise you should read. Okay, so column wise means you should make use of the variable called as a m. Okay, so m indicates columns or marks in subjects. Okay, right. Now what I do is I go through the matrix column wise. Okay, so for that I just take a variable something like for j in range, for j in range of m. Okay, so I get all the columns. M value now becomes 0 1 2. Okay, column 0, column 1, column 2, I am getting this here. Okay, so once I get column number available with me. Okay, so what I should do, I should just go on accessing this. Once I get this column wise. Okay, so now your I value should be row, should represent row here. Okay, row 0, row 1, row 2. Then column is constant here. Column number is constant, but you should get each subject marks traversing row wise. Okay, so what we do is we take a variable I and we traverse each row. Okay, so I should increment 0 1 2 like this. I value should increment. Okay, so for that what we do is simply we'll write like this. Okay, so see here. Now simple, you can just take the matrix. Okay, so matrix of matrix of column should be constant, only row should change here. Okay, so j value for j in range. Okay, so your j value in the range means j value initially now 0. Okay, so j value is now 0, matrix of 0, 0th column. Okay, then I value I should get here 0 0. Okay, so where from I should get I, you can just use like this, for I in range of okay, for I in range of n. When you say for I in range of n, then it gives I values again starting from 0 1 and 2. Okay, so you can write this here itself. You can also write below this for loop. Okay, but in Python you can write this this is very handy in Python. Okay, right? So once you get this matrix of 0 0. Okay, so matrix of 0 0, once you get then what you need to do for each column matrices values you will get. Okay, let me just erase this. Now what it supplies, let us understand. When you write like this, matrix of j I here. Okay, so that means matrix of 0 0, first I value, I value is 0 here. Okay, so then you get a matrix of 0 0. Okay, so that means this first value you get here. Okay, so you get the first value here, then I value becomes a 1 here. Okay, so then matrix of 0 1 you get here, 0 1. Okay, so that means column 0. Okay, is it column 0 or row 0? That means here this first index indicates row, no? Then the second index indicates a column. Okay, so that means we need to interchange these values. Okay, so what we do is, I think this should be I, this should be j, then we'll get the correct way of reading. This is very very important. You should know how to read the values from the matrix. Okay, sorry, again I'm writing the same thing. I comma j here should be, this is I value and this is j value. Okay, so matrix of 0 0, then you'll get the first 50 you'll get. Okay, then I value increments here. Okay, so I value becomes 1. So matrix of 1 0, j value is constant here. Okay, so 1 0 you'll get. So matrix of 1 0 means 1 0 means this 40 you get here. Okay, so then you get next marks 40. Okay, then matrix of I value increments here. I value becomes 2. Matrix of 2 0, you will get matrix of 2 0. So matrix of 2 0 means it is 80. Okay, so you get 80. That means all the three marks you are getting here. Okay, so directly what you can do is you can pass it to the function called as a sum. Okay, so there is a function available for summing up all the values. Okay, so just you pass it to the variable called as a sum. This is very handy. Instead of just taking another variable called as sum is equal to sum plus 50 plus sum plus 40 plus 80, adding them, just you call the function sum, it sums all the values. Okay, so then you store this in a variable called as a subject sum. Subject sum. Okay, so now you got the first subject sum value. You got first subject sum value. Okay, so by dividing with 3, it is nothing but the number of rows. Okay, then you will get its average value, that afterwards you store in a variable called as average marks. Okay, so now once you get the sum, now you calculate a average, subject average. Okay, so for that we declared a variable called as average marks. Okay, so how do you get average here? How do you get average marks here? Sum. Okay, so sum divided by 3. Okay, so 3 indicates here what we are calling it is subject sum. Okay, so subject sum divided by n value, number of rows. I said no, number of rows indicate number of students. Okay, so divided by n value gives the average for that one. Okay, so this average, what you do is you store into the variable called as average marks. So here what I do is I append it. This is an empty list. Okay, so average marks dot append. Just you say average marks dot append. That's it. So subject 1 marks will be appended. That means whatever 56.66 you got, no, that will be stored into this one. Okay, right? So then what happens again? J value increments. J value becomes 1 here. Okay, so J value becomes 1 here. Now again it calculates. Okay, so this loop repeats again here. So now you can see matrix of ij. I value is 0, 0, 1. Okay, so 0, 1 means this value you will get. Okay, so you get 60 here. 60, you get the number 60 here. Okay, so then I value becomes 1. Then matrix of 1 1, matrix of 1 1 means this 50 you will get here. Okay, so you get 50. Then I value increments 2, then matrix of 2 1, so matrix of 2 and 1 means 90. Okay, so this 90 you will get. Now you get all the 3 marks, then pass it to sum. It sums all the 3 values. Okay, then you will get the next subject sum divided by n gives its average marks, and that we are appending to this list, average marks list. That means the second average marks will be appended to the list. Okay, similarly you will get for the third student average marks, and that will be appended to the average marks. Now average marks contains average marks for each subject. Okay, so once you get average marks, then what you need to do, you need to calculate a number of students passed. Okay, so for that we take a variable called as a count. Okay, so I write this here. So I take a variable called as a count and initialize it to 0. Okay, so then run a loop and just run a for loop on each row. Each row represents each student. No, so for each student you compare each subject marks with the average marks. That's it. Okay, so for that what we do is we run the loop for I in range of n. Row wise I am traversing here. Okay, so j indicates column wise here. Okay, so for j in range, each now I should traverse the matrix element by element. I should traverse, so that's why I'm taking 2 loops here. So for j in range of m. Okay, so I value you will get as 0 1 2, then j value also you get as 0 1 2. Okay, so 0 0 0 1 0 2, like this each element we will traverse by using these 2 loops here. Okay, so once you get these 2 values here, now you compare each marks. How we can access each element in the matrix? By saying matrix of ij. Matrix of ij gives the first mark here 0 0. Okay, so 0 0, that means 50. Now you compare whether 50 is greater than this 56.667. If it is greater, then we'll say that we declare it as pass, and we don't process remaining subjects marks. Okay, so that is what we do here. We'll increment the count value. So we will check here. Okay, so condition we need to check if matrix of ij is greater than average marks. Where we stored average marks in that subject, we have stored as a list. Okay, so first element is subject 1 average marks, second element is subject 2, and next element is subject 3 average marks. So how we can access the first element in the list? Okay, so that we can access by using a j here, because j is incrementing. No, you should process this like this: 50 subject 1 subject 2 subject 3. So you should access these 56 66 76. Okay, so that means j value is incrementing first, so we can use j value here. In inner loop will execute first. No, so here what we do is we'll say average. What is the variable name we have given? Average marks. Okay, so average marks of j will say. So j value is initially 0. No, so if it is greater than, that means his subject marks are greater than the average marks. subjects marks are greater than the average marks, what we can do, we can just increment the count value. Okay, so count plus is equal to 1 we'll say, and immediately we'll break. Okay, when you say break, it breaks only from the inner loop. Okay, so that means first student if he has passed in subject 1, okay, so we don't process, we'll break and we'll come out and we'll go to the second student. Okay, so inner loop process the student 1, inner loop processes student 1 marks and compares with the average marks of each subject. Okay, so for that immediately we'll say break will come out and it goes up. Okay, if he has not passed, what it will do, this if condition is not executed, then j value will be incremented, next subject marks it checks. Okay, so student 1 0, student 0 student. Okay, so this is subject 1, no, not greater than, so this if condition is not executed here, so j value increments, it checks subject 2, then it checks subject 3 marks, like this. Each subject marks it checks whether student passed or not. Okay, so otherwise what happens, it goes to the next one, that's it. Okay, so the loops, two loops repeats continuously and finally count gives us the number of students passed. Okay, so once you come out from this, what you can do is from these two loops you can just print the count value here. This prints the number of students passed, that's it. So if you just make a small mistake in this program instead of ij, okay, so and ordering of the loops also, if you miss here, okay, so then this creates a problem. Okay, it reads the marks in a wrong way. So your average marks will be different. Whatever we calculated manually and your program calculation will be different in such case. Okay, so you should take some care in reading this marks column wise. Okay, so quickly we'll execute this and we'll test our logic or our program with the available data. So we'll go back to online compiler. Any doubts in this? If you have any doubts in this, then you can just type your doubts in the chat. So let me open the online compiler. So this is our online compiler. Okay, so let me remove everything. So first I read n and m values here. So map function we should use now. Map int comma input dot split. Got it? So once you read this, then you need to import a sys module. No, okay, so here sys module won't work in an online compiler. Okay, so what we do is okay, so let me type the code and it'll show the execution in IDLE. Okay, so I need to import a sys module here. Okay, right. So we read the data first. Okay, so data is equal to list of okay, so then map of int comma, so how to read sys dot stdin dot reads the entire data here, then you say splitting. Okay, so it splits and gives you the list here. Okay, all the numbers. Now we convert this list into matrix form, so we declare a variable called as a matrix. Empty list will create. Okay, so now we'll convert this vector into vector of marks into two-dimensional array. Okay, so for I in range of n. Okay, so for I in range of n, now what we do, we read the data and we append it to the matrix here. Okay, so matrix dot append. Okay, so what we need to append here, matrix dot append data. Okay, so data, and each slice we are taking now, so I multiplied by m, I multiplied by m starting position, then it is I plus 1, I plus 1 multiplied by m. Okay, so this gives each slice, and it will be appended to matrix. Okay, so that's it. This loop gives the marks in the form of two-dimensional array. Okay, so once you get this marks, what we do, we need to calculate average marks. So we declare a variable called as a average marks, create an empty list for storing the average marks. Okay, so now you calculate average marks here. So for j in a range, because you need to access column wise, no, so first you should use m. Okay, so better use the same notation when you are accessing column wise, use the variable name as j, and when you are accessing row wise, better use the variable name as I only. Okay, because it becomes easy for you to trace if there are any errors. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to calculate a subject sum, we need to calculate here. Okay, so subject sum is nothing but sum of okay, so matrix of ij values we want, matrix of ij values we want. Okay, but I value we should get here. So for I in a range, for I in range, okay, so row wise you should get, no, that's it. So if you write like this, no, for loop inside this, so it supplies all the three values and directly you can sum it up. Okay, but if you write this uh, below the first loop, okay, then you need to take another variable and go on adding up one by one number it supplies, then you should go on adding it to some variable called sum, and then you need to store into a subject sum variable. Okay, so subject sum plus is equal to something like matrix of ij, that way you should write. Okay, so this is more a pythonic way of writing the calculating the subject sum, subject wise sum. Okay, so once you get the subject wise sum here, so what you do, you calculate average and append it to average marks. Okay, so append, so it is nothing but sum divided by subject sum, no, so it is subject sum divided by 3. That's it, you will get the average marks here. Okay, so once you get average marks, so we need to count each student whether he has passed or not, take a variable called as a count here. Okay, so then take two loops here. For I in a range of n, first thing is row wise you should access, then inside column wise you should access, each element you should access now. So for j in a range m. Okay, so compare it, matrix of ij, matrix of ij, if this is greater than average marks, this is greater than average marks. One second, I remove this. Yeah, now it's clear, I think. Okay, so right, so it is average marks of j value. Okay, so it should increment by j now, average marks of j. So matrix of ij is greater than average marks of j here. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to just increment the count value. So just use a count plus is equal to 1, then say break. That's it. So once you come out from the loop, now you print the count value. Print the count value. So this gives the number of students pass here. Okay, so I just copy this. Okay, and paste this in IDLE. Let me open IDLE here. So I'm just opening the IDLE here. You can see IDLE prompt. So let me paste this code here and just save the code. Okay, so on desktop I'll just store it as a some name, right? So then let me run this code. So I think I should supply the values. So 3 is our n and m values. Okay, so then what are the output values? Output values, these three are our output values. Okay, so we'll place these three. I think it is taking a single number. Okay, so let me enter this manually. Let me show the execution there. So what we do is we will run this code. Now it is expecting the input here. Okay, so you can see in the IDLE command prompt. Now it is expecting the input here. So we'll pass the input here. So 3 is n and m values. Then we'll pass the values 50, 60, 70. Okay, so then 40, 50, 60. Okay, so then 80, 90, 100. Okay, so still it is expecting some numbers, I think. That means your loop is not terminating. Okay, so what you can do is, now you can see here. So why your 3 by 3 matrix, why it is unable to read? Okay, so this we should understand. Now we'll see here. Let us run the code. Now n and m values, it is reading n and m values. Okay, now you just check out whether the n and m values are properly read into these variables or not, and matrix is also properly read into this. Okay, so we'll try to print data also so that you will understand whether it is reading properly or not. Okay, so first these two values we will test, then we will check with the other values. So what I do is, again I give the input here 3. Now it is reading n and m values properly. Okay, so then we will enter these values 50, 60, 70. Okay, so then 40, 50 and 70. It is 60, no? 40, 50, 60. Then it is 80, 90 and 100. So now 50, 60, 70, 40. Now you can see 50, 60, 80, 90, 100. Okay, so it is reading the input properly. Okay, but here what name range is not defined. I have given a wrong spell here for range. So I should correct this for I in range. So I should correct this. Let me. So where is that range function? Here I have given somewhere range. Range here. Okay, so this is range and here it is wrong. It is RANG. Okay, so that's why it is unable to process the average marks. Okay, right. Hope we got this right. So once we got this, now let us run the code again. Run the module. Okay, so not to worry. Like this, you should go on debugging your code, and then ultimately you should get the required output. Okay, so 3 3 is now it is getting printed 3 3. Okay, so we'll supply the marks here 50, 60, 70. Okay, then 40, 50, 60. Then I supply the marks here. Then it is 80, 90 and 100. List index out of range. Matrix of I comma j greater than average marks of j. So line number 20 it is say. Okay, so what is the problem? Just you check out. In line number 20, so j value becomes 0, 1 and 2 now. Average marks j 0, 1, 2 and I value is first 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2 it checks. Okay, so but why it is saying out of range? This we need to check. So here it is showing that it is out of range. Okay, so the value is index list index out of range. Line number 20. So this is creating the problem. I and j values. Okay, so 0 first to 0 row 0 we are processing it. Then we are processing this correctly. So I think the input is not ending here with the sys module. No? Let me just cross check this. Yeah. So what we do is we uh, try to print I and j values here so that we will come to know I value comma I. Okay, so then j value comma j. Right. Now let us verify this. Why it is saying index out of range? So like this, you should just cross check with your input values. Now it is 3 3. Okay, so then It is printing correctly. Sorry. I0 J0, I0 J1. Then it is saying list index out of 0. Okay, so 50, 60, 70. Okay. So we got the output we entered in a wrong way. Now see I0 J0, I0 J1, then it is saying list index out of range. Okay, so but why it is, that means your matrix, it is not stored properly, it seems. Okay, so let us just check out the matrix. Once you calculate average marks, okay, so you print average marks here, average marks list you print, and you also print your matrix. Then you will understand why it is giving error here. So you add these two lines, okay, average marks and matrix, both you print here. Then you can test this. Your matrix is arranged properly or not. Because you are appending data to the matrix, no? Each matrix containing a list of sublists. So that we should check here. Now let us run the code. Then pass the input. Enter the input here, 3, 3. Okay, then print it correctly. Now you can see. So this is average marks. Only one value is added here. That's why it is showing a list out of index. Now you can see here. It is just storing only the first subject average marks. Okay, so here we got the black sheep. Okay, so we need to check this average marks list properly. Okay, so what happening in the code? Let us go back to the code and test this. Okay, so this is our code. Now why it is unable to store remaining marks, we should understand. Okay, so where is the average marks dot append? Yeah, here is the mistake. Okay, so this should happen. It is happening only once here. Okay, this is happening only once, but it should calculate for each of these things, no? Average marks, yes or no? So that means it should be inside the loop. So we kept that outside the loop. So what we need to do is we bring this inside the loop. Then once it calibrates, then it will be added. Just see here. So improper placing of the instruction. Now you are getting erroneous results. So this works fine now. Okay, so source. Now you are running this 3, 3. Now paste this. Now you can see the number of students 1. Okay, so you can just check out here. the output you got the number of students as a 1 here. Okay, so we remove this entire thing, printing of these statement. Now we remove all the print statements and directly you print the output only. Okay, so let us remove all the so this is how you can debug by printing the variables which you have calculated values. Now it is storing these average values properly. So if you don't print and test your program, then you never know whether the values are stored correctly in the variables or not, because these are all values which we have calculated and stored in the variables. No, so this you should cross check. So let us go back to the code, remove all the print statements. We remove all the print statements and finally we run the code. Okay, so just I'm removing these print statements, so everything is perfect now. This also let me remove. Okay, so then what else, this data printing also we remove and nm values also we remove. Right, so now everything looks perfect. Now let us run the code. Okay, so now we pass the proper input. Now you can see here. So let me pass the values, input values. So 3, 3, I'm passing here. Now I'm passing the matrix here. Okay, so then now you can see the output 1 is printed. Okay, so handling of matrix data. You should exercise some care and finally you should get the output. Ultimately, you should get the required output there. So that's it for today, friends. So this is one question which is related to matrices problem. Okay, so learn more about matrices, how you can handle matrices in Python. Okay, so it is nothing but list of lists only. We don't have a two-dimensional array in Python. So you should handle two-dimensional array as a list of lists. So you need to work out more on this handling of matrix data. Okay. So thank you one and all. Happy learning, happy coding.